What's crack-a-lack, and it's your boy Baroshmo, just in case you did not know. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Giants, basically a season preview. We're going to take a look at the roster, we're going to take a look at the schedule. I'm going to give you my projected starters or who I think deserve the most snaps, as well as my prediction for how they're going to do this year. Plenty of content on the channel along with these season previews. I'm hopefully going to be recording some Madden stuff tonight, and I'll have that out for you sometime this week, so we'll see about that. I mean, if you can't tell, I got the PlayStation right here. You see the kind of the controller, so you know it's coming. And I managed, hopefully, or I hunted down a 360, and hopefully I should have NCAA, and I should start recording stuff on that maybe this week, hopefully. So I'm very excited. I haven't played the game in a heck of a long time, but let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the roster for the New York Football Giants, and where else start but Daniel Jones, man. We're gonna see if he can take that next step in his young career, see how he develops this year. I think he's very capable. He showed a lot of flashes last year, and I think he actually has some very quality weapons. Sterling Shepard, I think he's phenomenal as an underneath guy. I think he'll probably spend a lot of time in the slot, though. Golden Tate can fulfill that role as well. I mean, on passes of 10-yard or less, I mean, he was targeted in the middle of the field 31 times, and it was very successful. He had 28 catches on 31 targets in the middle of the field on 10 yards or less. So I think he will reprise that role. Their deep threat will probably be Golden Tate. He's the guy that they took the most shots with downfield. He was 7 of 17. So that could get a little bit better. So hopefully that's something that can improve. Jones can improve at, because I think they have a very solid wide receiving core. You know, at first you might think it's underwhelming, but now they're pretty good. Darius Slay was actually pretty darn good. He's kind of interested in the mix here. He's definitely one of their outside receivers, and they can kind of flirt with. They want Golden Tate or Sterling Sharp out there. Preferably, I would say Golden Tate, but I like what they got going on. Some of the other guys they have on their roster there, I don't really think have a chance of starting. I mean, maybe Victor, the Ohio State rookie. But even then, I mean, he might even be a long shot to make the roster. So we'll have to wait and see. And then Evan Ingram, if he could stay healthy, solid there. I like it a lot. Caden Smith is also there. So they actually have a couple of pretty solid tight ends. While Evan Ingram's actually pretty darn good if he could stay on the field. And they got weapons. I mean, Saquon Barkley, there's not much you have to say about that. He's Saquon. He's great. Deion Lewis comes in interesting. He's very familiar with, he kind of popped off with the Patriots, and Joe Judge is now the coach there. So, and I'll get to what that might mean for the defense, because I think it's going to affect the defense a lot, and you can kind of tell by some of the moves that they made in the draft that it will in fact do that. But let's talk about the offensive line. This was kind of something they really needed to address, especially the tackle position, because it was just terrible. I mean, Nate Solder, he had allowed 56 pressures last year, gave up 11 sacks. He was just terrible. He was horrible. He's not a part of the long-term answer. That's why they drafted Andrew Thomas. That's why they drafted Matt Pert. Probably won't really get a chance to play this year, but I think he will probably end up being the right tackle come the 2021 season, and then they'll move Andrew Thomas over at left. Andrew Thomas, he has experience playing both. He played his first 2 seasons at Georgia. He played right tackle, and then they moved him to left. He was still dominant. I'm pretty sure maybe it was his first year he played right tackle. I'm not positive on that. Now we're at a draft season. You know, all my information is just it's gone. And then the interior is actually I don't want to say the strength of the team, but they got some interesting moving parts there. I mean, you got Kevin Z, who's holding it down. Will Hernandez, he's really developed into a pretty solid pretty solid all-around blocker. He's above average blocker, which is all you can ask for in the NFL. I mean, it's just hard enough finding average offensive linemen. So they got a good one there. And then the real question is going to be who's playing center, because Spencer Pulley ain't doing it. He was trash. He was really bad. Nothing against him. Just you haven't played well. You haven't proved you can play well in your career. Interesting name I've seen thrown out there is Nick Gates, who has not played the position at all. Last year he took 203 snaps at right tackle and 77 at right guard. So he would be kind of foreign to the position. But over 290 snaps, I mean, he only allowed 9 pressures, no penalties. He was actually pretty good. So that's an interesting name there. It sounds like there's a lot of buzz coming from him. I think Shane Lemieux, the rookie from Oregon, who never played center, keep in mind. So you got 2 guys that have not played center. He's also a name I've heard in the mix here. So that's pretty interesting. I think that would be pretty... That might not be a bad move for him, just because he is kind of a... He is limited as an athlete, but he's very technically sound. He's very disciplined. He was a guy I really liked, but there was a definite ceiling on him. So center might be the right call. So I love what they've done with the offensive line. It'll just be interesting who plays center. I think it's going to be between Lemieux and Gates. I think if you're starting Pulley, then you're asking for trouble. But the interior is pretty solid outside of that. In the future at the tackle position looks bright. But let's go ahead. Let's shift our focus to the defense, because I was talking about Joe Judge earlier, right? I think he's going to really put his... oh, thank you for the coffee. Anyway, Joe Judge, I really think he's going to put his stamp, his imprint on this defense. I think it's going to be... You're mainly going to see it in the secondary, where they're going to really focus on a press man heavy scheme. And I think the addition of James Bradbury kind of gave that away, because he's been very up and down his career, but he's been the best at his best when playing man coverage. They kind of try to flirt with zone last few years, and he's really struggled at that. So, I think that's a good call. I mean, DeAndre Baker, he's a guy that was coming from Georgia that was very experienced at man cover, especially press man. Sam Beal, he's very athletic. He's an interesting name to kind of keep in mind here. Don't know what's going on with Baker and his running with the law. See what happens there. I don't think he'll be suspended. I think he'll be fine, because it looks like that whole thing's just, that case is falling apart. But the interesting name is Darnay freaking Holmes, a guy that last year I was preaching. I was like, gosh, he's a graduate. He could honestly transfer, play immediately. There were rumors about him going to Ohio State, which would be great, because I think he would have been spectacular in a press man scheme. I wanted to see it. Now, I think just these moves just indicate, hey, we're gonna be playing a heck lot of man. And then then you got an argument here for the safeties, because they got 3 pretty solid ones. Julian Love, I think they'll probably move, or at least end up moving to slot. He had a rough game at the end of the year playing in the slot against Philadelphia, but outside of that, they kind of sprinkled him in there throughout the year, and he was actually pretty solid. So I'm pretty sure they're going to go there. Grant Haley's just been terrible in that role. I mean, you could probably maybe even say Darnay Holmes there. So they got options. Jabril Peppers and Xavier McKinney. I'm kind of intrigued who's going to kind of play that Patrick Chung role, and probably kind of focus on tight ends, play a little closer to the box. I think McKinney would be better in that role, just because I like the athleticism better on Peppers, but it sounds like it might happen vice versa, because that's what Peppers was kind of doing. He was kind of like that, not necessarily in the box, but hovering around last season. So I'm very encouraged on what I see from the secondary. I think it might just take a season to really gel that together. And then at the linebacker position, you got Blake Martinez. Very overrated, because you look at his tackle total. He had 130 last year, but he missed over 10% of his tackles. He's not that solid of a run defender. He got totally just torched in coverage. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. Where are you at, Blake? Where are you at, Blake? He allowed 569 yards in coverage. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. Like, oh, I mean, I know what they're gonna do with him. They're gonna expect him to play, be their starting linebacker, but I don't know. I'm not a fan. Oh, Breeze is falling. Throw you back up there. There you go. But looking at the guys behind him, Ryan Conley, a guy who actually played very well in coverage despite kind of being limited athletically, but you find these really, really smart, really savvy, really high football IQ guys that could really work around it. They know how to put themselves in compromising situations to where they physically cannot make a play. So I like that. I want to see more of him. I really liked what I saw last year. I think Cam Brown's an interesting name to look at because athletically he's a freak, just a guy that kind of needs a refine, just his tackling, get a little more experience and just kind of seeing coverage. So I like those. I think those are really David Mayo, he's just a solid depth piece in general. I mean, he's like a third or fourth linebacker on every team, but he is a depth piece you were more than happy to have. And looking at the edge, this is I don't want to say it's not troubling. It's just like you can tell they're not satisfied. Like Lorenzo Carter, he's a good run defender, but that's it. He doesn't really bring any pass rush. They saw from O'Shane Zimenez. You'll let me know if I got the name right or not. The ODU former ODU player. He actually played pretty solid in limited snaps. I think you're gonna see a big step forward from him in his sack total. In his snap total. Him and Kyler Fackrell, who kind of had a down year last year, he was used very limitedly. Those guys will probably be seeing very similar snaps. I'm just kind of sad that you might see Lorenzo Carter get more of those because I mean he's just a run defender in my opinion. And there's not much to him. But a couple of other guys that they drafted, Carter Coughlin, I think is interesting because I think he could definitely fill the James Collins role because you knew this guy. He was coming into the league, he's probably have to be an off-ball linebacker. He doesn't have the size or really the physicality to play on the edge, but he's been an edge his whole life. All he knows is blitzing the quarterback. So they might be able to kind of what's the word I'm looking for him? Not nurture, but I guess kind of guide him into that role. But another one who might be a practice squad name is Olawale Bedeku. It was a guy I really liked out of Illinois because, or at least athletically, you love what you see. It's just you haven't really seen any consistency from him. He had a hard time really seeing the field at Southern Cal on a really bad Southern Cal team that really didn't have the talent that it has currently. Had transferred to Illinois, and even there, like I said, very inconsistent. He has some injury issues, but like I said, very athletic. So interesting name to kind of watch out for. My biggest fear is Lorenzo Carter kind of sees more snaps than Fackrell and Zimenez. I think I nailed it. And then on the interior, you got just three solid guys. They're very, very good run defenders, and they provide a little bit of pass rush as well. And Leonard Williams, Dalvin Thompson, and Dexter Lawrence. So will the defense take a step up? I think they really can. I think this team can be pretty good. They've assembled a lot of parts. It's just a matter of time to see what kind of gels in place and who finds a role. I didn't mention Tay Crowder. I wasn't that high on him, so that's probably why I didn't mention him. I know there will be little fans out there of him, but let's go ahead, let's take a look at the schedule. And first off, you've got to face Philly and Dallas twice a year. I could mention Washington, but we'll see. A Washington team's interesting, but the Giants, they typically play division rivals pretty well. That's typically the case for all divisions that they play each other very well, but more so I think in the NFC East. It doesn't really matter what record the Giants have or how good Dallas is. They typically will have one game where they're pretty good, pretty close game. But on top of that, they're gonna have to go face the NFC West. There we go. And rough. That sucks, because you got a Rams team who, yes, they don't look as good as they did maybe from a year ago, but that's still they still got a lot of talent on that team. Then you got Arizona, who's kind of ascending. Seattle, who Russell Wilson's one of the most underrated, if not one of the top 2 quarterbacks in all of football. Like I said, very underrated. And then you have, of course, San Francisco 49ers, who are a quarter away from winning the Super Bowl. Not saying they blew it, it's just that's a tough Chief defense to stop. They did good for 3 quarters, or for like 2.5. And then on top of that, you gotta go face the AFC North. They're no jokes either. Pittsburgh, as long as Big Ben's healthy, well, I mean, he will be healthy. They got him week 1, so that's gonna be a much better Steelers team. You got to face Baltimore, who was the, or at least from a record perspective, the best team in football last year. You have the Bengals now with Joe Burrow. You shouldn't sleep on those guys. And then you got the Browns, who are playing with the chip on their shoulder. They thought they should have been contenders last year, and it kind of fell apart. Top of that, you got games against Tampa Bay, which Tom Brady's there. Wolf, that sucks. And then the Chicago Bears, which kind of like I would say they're very similar to Washington, where it's kind of like the question marks at quarterback, and you don't really know how that's going to factor in. It's not like quarterback's the most valuable position on the team, so it would kind of help if you knew what you were getting from your quarterback, how you would tell a team would do. But like I said, it's actually a very tough schedule. But let's go ahead. Let me give you who I think will be my starters here. Switch back to the cam. Of course, you got Daniel Jones. You got Saquon, Golden Tate, Darius Slayton on the outside, Sterling Shepard going to be in the slot, Evan Ingram, and then I got Solder there on the left tackle, probably his last year with the team. Hernandez, I went with Lemieux, but honestly, you could put Nick Gates here. I think it's really a toss-up. Just depends who develops quicker. And then KZ, and I almost said AT, but which wouldn't be incorrect, but Andrew Thomas. It's a pretty easy name to say, I should say. And then defensive starters, excuse the mistype, but you got Williams, you got Tomlinson, and you got Fexter Lawrence. The D and the F, they're close together, and I'm trying to pump out a bunch of these, so sometimes things, there will be typos. I went with Kyler Fackrell, but honestly, I think you can make a good argument for O'Shane, and hopefully, like I kind of speak my piece on Lorenzo Carter, and then Blake Martinez. They paid him all the money. He has to start. Ryan Conley, I'm going with, because he intrigued me before the injury, and I want to see a little bit more. Then I got Bradbury, I got Baker. Keep in mind, with a suspension, or if a suspension, Sam Beal I think is a good option. I went with Julian Love because played last year. Darnay Holmes might make a guest appearance, and then Peppers and McKinney. But let's get to what you're really here for. I know what you want. Tell me what you want, what you really want. I'll tell you what you want. Unfortunately, I don't think I will. Like I said, I think this team needs a year to gel. I feel like they're a year away. I think they've made, for the most part, a lot of the right moves. But when it's all said and done, I have them at 6-10. I said tough schedule. They're maybe still a year away. And I mean, I actually have them going 4-2 in the division. So that's kind of wild. I don't have too many wins outside of the division there, but it's gonna be interesting regardless. This is a team that like I said, making all the right moves, or most of the right moves. They're going in a very good direction. I'm very, very eager to see how this team progresses, but we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think it'll be this season. But that's it for the video. Go ahead and do the YouTube thing. Always much appreciated, much obliged. And until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.